Testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Guys, let me know if you can hear me. Fix my hair, honey. Okay, good. Hi, everybody. Listen, we always start at 9 p.m. on Monday. I'm trying something different. It's the end of the year, so this is a good time to do something different, to switch things up. So I'm starting at 8 p.m. Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Man Up Monday. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. I don't like the way I said, "Hi, everybody. I need my E to be E." And it was a little dry, but that's better. E. Hi, everybody. All right, guys, listen. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell button and get all notifications. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Share, 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 share. So I'm starting at 8 p.m. tonight because it's a couple of things that I want to talk about before the judge come on at 9. He is coming on at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is usually the time we always start the show. However, I wanted to talk about Chicago, and I'm bringing Miss P. Ray on to talk about Chicago and what happened over the weekends, the Chicago riots of teenagers. What is going on with the youth? They're out of control. It was a Christmas tree lighting in downtown Chicago. Listen, when they light the Christmas tree in New York, like that's legendary. And I'm pretty sure it's the same thing in Chicago. Tourists come in, downtown supposed to be ritzy and upscale, and the children are acting a fool. And honestly, I think, of course, the kids who were shooting and vandalizing and rioting should have charges brought up on them, and the parents. And the parents. Yeah. Hi, Sylvia. Hello, Mel. Big Daddy King, Barbara, Rack. Hi, guys. Honey, we got to talk about Man Dandy. He went to the White House. He went to D.C. so he could get some federal money. Yeah, it is all a game. It's all a game. Did Jasmine Crockett announce her Senate run yet? Because she's hinting, and I thought she was going to announce it today. I didn't check. I am going to talk about her, but I didn't check to see if I didn't check her page to see if she announced it. If she did, I'll talk about that on Wednesday. So yeah, so we got to talk about that, and of course, breaking news. But I'm saving that for the 9 p.m. hour. Breaking news: Letitia James, honey, got a victory in court. The judge tossed out those fraud charges. Like, no, get it out of here. And whoever was that special prosecutor, DA girl, woman from the Trump administration, honey, talk about dumb blonde moment. She dropped the ball there. Honey, now they're calling for Pam Bondi to resign. Listen, are they wrong? Because she's been making a couple of mistakes, and it's only what, 10 months in? So I don't know, but we have a lot to talk about. We got to talk about Tish, Jasmine, Maxine. Yeah. And we're going to start off with Chicago. So I also started a goal. Listen, if you have a question or a comment, please send it in via super chat. I have a goal that I put up there. You can see it in the chat, guys. And Friday, I said if I reach my goal, I'm going to do a call-in show Friday. And I'm going to hold myself to it. So, yeah. Pam Bimbo Bondi. Yeah, like what is going on? Um, where's the thing here? Okay. And let me make that go across there. And what is this? Okay. Like that. Yeah, Pam Bimbo Bondi. First they were saying we're going to drop the Epstein files, we're going to drop it, and then it's like, no, we're not. Just going back and forth. Yes, Fanny. Fanny is another one. Fanny needs to be behind bars. But the whole administration is a hot mess. Let me see. You coming? Let's see. You coming? Coming? Question mark. All right, but I want to start off with Chicago. Let's start off in Chicago.
John, it was a big weekend to kick off the holidays here in Chicago, and they couldn't get through it without more shocking violence. Bloodshed at the tree lighting ceremony. That 14-year-old you mentioned, his name was Armani Floyd. He was killed. The coroner ruled his death was caused by multiple gunshot wounds. He was shot near the Dirksen Federal Building, where we cover so many of those trials, and that shooting was the second of two shootings that evening. About an hour earlier, right on State Street, about 10 p.m. in front of the historic Chicago Theater, gunfire broke out. 7 people were shot. Their ages range from 13 to 17. Now, the shootings followed a trend called a teen takeover, where young people post something on social media, then they swarm an area. Kids reportedly had shown up from southern as well as northern suburbs and the city itself. The alderman of that ward says the teenagers were rioting. Right now, it is not known what sparked the gunfire, and it's not known if the two shootings are connected. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson again placed blame on the availability of guns, but this time he did seem to accept some blame, and he blamed the kids who swarmed downtown.
Our young people have to understand that they should not attend these unauthorized events that have been advertised on social media.
No suspects are in custody. A Chicago police officer was injured. We're waiting on an update of his condition. And CPD official numbers for the weekend are out. 28 people were shot. 4 people were killed by gunfire. 1 person died from a stabbing. John, back to you.
Mike Tobin for us in Chicago. Mike, thank you. Now to Gianna.
It's very disheartening to see this. You know, right. Holiday time, everybody wants to celebrate and enjoy the evening, and something like this happens.
Suzanne, this morning, still a lot of details coming to light on both of these shooting scenes. We know last night, area Alderman Brian Hopkins said that multiple police officers were also hurt during those shootings. He said at least 1 police officer had to be hospitalized.
Incidents like last night set us back as a city, and it evokes fear. Our young people have to understand that they should not attend these unauthorized events that have been advertised on social media. They are extremely dangerous due to the number of individuals that may be carrying weapons, and as much progress as we have made, there are still far too many guns on our streets. For these young people who have engaged in these incidents, you have put yourselves and your friends at risk. Because of the reckless behavior of a few individuals, we have families devastated, and our downtown residents are hesitant to leave their own homes. I'm the first person to recognize that we have more work to do in this city to provide safe spaces for our young people. But these type of violent gatherings can never be an alternative, nor can they be normalized. We need parents, guardians, and other responsible adults to do their best to accompany young people in large, unsanctioned gatherings where weapons are likely to be present. There's always more we as adults can do to make sure that we know where our kids are and what they are doing. I recognize this feels like emotional whiplash. After this incredible celebration last night where thousands of people gathered, Chicagoans who were enjoying our tree lighting ceremony expressed their love for our city. It was peaceful. It was a joyous evening, a vision of the best of Chicago. The holiday season is a time when we come together as a city. It's when we spend time with our families and our loved ones. This is the opposite type of behavior that anybody wants to see. And when we have a setback like this, it just reminds us of the long road that we have to build the city that we all want to live in. We will continue to pray for the victims and their families. We will continue to pray for our city. This is an ongoing investigation, and we'll provide the updates as we have them.
So here's the deal. I saw P and she just dipped out. He is the same man who said that he didn't want Trump, he didn't want ICE, he didn't want National Guards, he didn't want federal troops in the city. But when the National Guards and the federal troops touched down in Chicago a couple months ago, this wasn't going on. There was no teen takeover. because Teen Takeover happened last year as well, if we all remember. So this seems like an annual thing for teenagers, but they choose to do it when it's like a big celebration, such as Christmas tree lighting. But see, if the National Guards was there, I bet you this wouldn't have took place, because people know to stay inside or to behave themselves. But he didn't want them there. So I'm going to blame the mayor. And Trump says that there have been people chanting for him to come to Chicago, to bring more troops to Chicago. So it says President Trump on Saturday said Chicagoans are asking to bring in Trump amid recent crime wave in Democrat-run city. At least 8 teens were shot, 1 fatal. Multiple police officers were attacked Friday after a riot broke out at Chicago Loop. And I believe that's like a famous downtown theater area, the Chicago Loop area. 300 people rioting, 300 teens. And you mean to tell me that you don't need the National Guards there? You don't need, federal troops that's supposed to help ICE agents, but they could also be patrolling the streets. When you look at DC, crime has dropped drastically. When you look at what other city, well, when they were in Chicago a couple months ago, crime did drop. What is going on with P? Right? Where is she? Every city that the Trump administration has placed National Guards, crime has dropped. Are you ready?
Is like, oh, it's on your end, girl. It's been giving me the hardest time. It was like you don't have access to the camera, so I kept having to like log out,
Oh,
log
really?
back in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, and we already discussed Restream.
Oh
Restream is
gosh,
for people.
Miss Baylor, I can't see myself. Oh, I see me. Hello, everybody. Yes, I am ready.
All right. So listen, I wanted to bring you on to talk about the Chicago teen riots.
Oh gosh. Okay, so they need to be locked up. And when I say they, the babies, what happened is the children have decided that they're just going to be rebellious and do what they want to do. There were lots of fights all throughout downtown. Everybody wants to be like this Chiraqi thug. So they want to go downtown, they want to fight, they want to try to rob people. It was really bad. However, I want the entire world to know that it was not just the Negro children. There were lots of Hispanic children out there as well, because everybody wanted to say nigga and wear their push ices and their little tight clothes with their Nike Techs and, be that guy. And it's out of order. It's completely out of order now. We definitely need them to pull these children back together. The way that we do that is through deterrence and punishment. They have to get them back together. The way that the children are just being disrespectful across the board. And I think that it is TikTok that is pushing this on them as well. One little boy who got killed, he was 14 years old. He is was a football player, very involved, just a great kid. Well, friends, there is a video currently circulating on social media showing this little boy beating and stomping a child and snatching his jacket off his back and snatching his shoes, and the rest of the children are like beating and stomping on him. Well, the little boy got up and something, hey, we don't want the children to shoot each other, certainly, but this again is like a culture that's being allowed to be perpetuated. And it's not fair. It's not fair because downtown is also a neighborhood. So we have teenagers who live downtown, hang out downtown. This is their world. And they're going to be put on curfew too, which then puts them at a disadvantage in their own neighborhood, and everybody else gets to go back to theirs unscathed. So that's the children.
So I want to ask you, the boy that was killed, you said that he was being a bully and terrorizing other kids too?
Yes, and the video is out there, Miss Dana. Yes, he was. He stomped on that little boy. He snatched his Cathart or something. I don't know, some brand that the children are now wearing. But he had on his jacket and he had on his boots, and they beat him up, stomped him out, snatched his stuff off him, and then a group of girls had to like pick him up and walk him away with them. So yeah, I mean, it went down.
No, but
It really went
but
down.
but it was a teenager that did die.
Correct. No, the teenager that did die did that to another child on video.
Oh, so
It's the same thing. It's the same culture that caused those kids to jump on that woman. Same. Same
right.
type of degenerate behavior. But my thing is, I believe that the children act like this because the adults are acting like this. Everybody want to be a baddie. Everybody want to be a real housewife. Everybody want to prove they the toughest and I'll fight you and pull your hair and snatch it. Nah, 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 nah. So if you are normalizing this as adults, then the children are going to absorb that and give it back to you harder. That's what we're dealing with. That's
So
I'm sorry.
I want to ask you this question about Trump. When he brought in the National Guards at one point, correct?
I'm sorry, what you say?
I said he brought in the National Guards.
He did not. No, the National Guards never made it to Chicago. What we had were Border Patrol and ICE.
So when Border Patrol was there, even ICE, did you guys see a decrease in criminal activity?
Yes, because once they knew that the feds were here and could pop out on any corner, they had some act right. We didn't have any of these riots when the children knew that ICE was on the ground and they had the cameras and stuff everywhere. We didn't have this problem of the migrants. So 2 migrants day before yesterday grabbed 2 little girls. I'm assuming they're white because they live in Ravenswood Manor, which is a white affluent section of the city. This is where Governor Blagojevich lives with his family. They're walking down the street. They see 2 guys following them. Those 2 guys run up on them. One has a knife, one has a gun. They push them into an alley, rape one girl at knife point while holding the other at gunpoint. The neighbors heard the commotion. The guys fled and they pulled them into the house. You know who did that, Dana? The migrants. The description was a white Hispanic and a black Hispanic did that to them. Those are not Chicagoans, okay? Remember, Chicago is segregated. So no, that's not how that goes here. But the Venezuelans are one group. So this is what they're doing. It's just lawlessness, 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 because everybody is focused on getting anti-violence money. And if you don't have a little bit of violence, how can you pull that money in? So now you legislate for the offenders and not for the victims. That's how the woman got set on fire earlier this week. I'm sorry?
I want to talk about that, but I want to share this clip first.
And thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Setting a woman on fire aboard a Chicago train is due back in court today. He faces a federal terrorism charge. His name is Lawrence Reed. He has been arrested more than 4 dozen times, 9 of those times for felonies, according to local outlets. But he was released in August for aggravated battery with just an ankle monitor. Paul Morrow is a Fox News contributor, former NYPD inspector, and of course an attorney. How does someone like this that has this rap sheet, okay, I understand people that want to be reformers. I used to be one. Yeah. But when you got, a rap sheet like a CVS receipt, it's time to keep him behind bars, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really is, especially when you consider that he had the ankle bracelet on and he was in violation of the terms of the ankle bracelet. What good is the bracelet if nobody's monitoring it, right? So obviously that's all just fluff. Look, the bottom line here is this, and I constantly make this point whenever I can. There's a small segment of society. We're not talking, excuse me, about coming down like a ton of bricks on everybody who runs afoul of the law, all right? We're talking about a specific segment of society that, were we to finally recognize they are incorrigibles, perhaps due to mental illness. I get that. They have to be, I'm sorry, they have to be isolated from the rest of society, not only for our sake, but for their own sake. And so what drives me crazy is that I just testified in the House Judiciary down in Congress on Blue City crime. And I went with all of these bipartisan hopes that I had policies laid out and statistics, stuff that we had done here in New York under Democrat administrations that not only brought down crime, brought down the incarceration rate. Nobody really wants to hear it, all right? The Democrats were holding up pictures of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein from 30 years ago. It was not a serious undertaking. And it's just the idea that we can just arrest ourselves out of all these problems is what they always go to. And that's not what cooler heads are proposing. There is a segment that needs help, and it would help us so that women are not set on fire on our subways.
Meanwhile, the mayor of Chicago is saying that it was isolated. Let's watch.
This is an isolated incident. I mean, I don't see this as some sort of trend. And again, you know, the level of accountability that has to happen in this moment, you know, I trust that the federal level will do its part.
Like, what is he talking about?
Isolated. First of all, we had the same thing in New York last year, right? Somebody who got set on fire. This is the kind of thing that, you know, should shock the conscience anywhere. You know what he should do if he was being more mature and statesmanlike about this? I understand that he's against Donald Trump. He doesn't want Donald Trump to bring the feds there or the National Guard. But the feds have extended powers over our transportation systems, all right? The common carriers, as they're called, our critical infrastructure. Donald Trump has the ability to force the National Guard in many ways there, much better than he does sort of in the cities writ large. Right. They should cut a deal. He should say, look, we have problems on our subways. And the reason I say that it is a path forward is we have it in New York. Kathy Hochul has 1,000, she's Democratic governor, she has 1,000 National Guard in the New York City subways. We've had them in the critical infrastructure here in New York City, Penn Station, Grand Central Station, later the Oculus, since 9/11.
It's an easy win.
Easy win. Everybody wins. He'd look like he came forward and they cut a deal for the sake of the safety of the cities. And otherwise, Donald Trump can do it. It'll end up in court like they all do, but he'll win. But wouldn't it be better to cut a deal? Everybody gets on board and everybody's safer.
Miss Dana?
What is that noise? Is that your daughter watching TV?
No, that's my uncle's phone ringing, and it's also a cat that's in my ceiling right now. So remember, we're in this insurance house, and in my boiler room, I guess their boiler room has like a space in it, and they have a kitten. So sometimes the kitten comes down, and at first we were like climbing and getting them, but now we're like, go back through the hole. So you hear like a little baby cat screaming in the background because he wants us to come and grab him out of the ceiling. Nobody has time for that.
But then he goes back into the ceiling.
No, then he goes back, back through the hole, back into his house.
Oh my God. But
yeah.
He's getting stuck.
Yeah, you can hear him screaming. Like, but I'm not gonna keep getting dusty for this cat. You know, then you try to get him down. He wants to run back. You don't want to like mess up the boiler and the heaters. We gotta go around the pipes and stuff. No, they need to like this has happened at least 5 times. So it's like the people upstairs need to put something, like a piece of something over it so that the cat won't keep getting stuck. But anyway, we digress.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on, you know, when he's on the subway with the woman getting burnt up, you know, and the mayor, you know, his nonchalant attitude towards it? And is it true that people are chanting for Trump to come into Chicago?
Number one, yes. I've been saying this for years. Years, America. I don't understand why people don't take me seriously, Dana. We need help here. Now, when we talk about the dude who did this, let's just talk about him as a person, and then we're going to talk about how all of this happened. This man has been getting mental health treatment at McNeil Hospital for the past 17 years. He is clinically insane. One day while he was up there let's go back. Clinically insane, but manageable with medicine. He has a church, he has a family, he's just very severely mentally ill. When Rahm Emanuel was mayor, he closed the mental health clinics in the city, and that pushed all of them to the street. So keep that in mind as well, and Rahm is the darling of the Democratic Party. Now, one day, maybe like 2 months ago, this guy was at McNeil Hospital in the room with his social worker. He hauls off and slaps her in the face. He slaps her so hard that she had a headache, nausea, so forth and so on. So they arrested him. When he got in front of this judge, the legislation for the Safety Act, which came out of the Illinois State House, that, you know, it's like Illinois' crime bill. It states that only certain crimes are detainable offenses. So he got charged with an aggravated battery. Aggravated battery is not automatically detainable in the state of Illinois. Like, there are certain circumstances that have to be met in order for them to be detained. Because he did not meet the criteria, he was not detained. Then the judge, again, based on the Safety Act, gave him a house arrest ban. In Cook County, if you are on a house arrest ban, you get 40 hours of movement a week, which means you can leave out of your house and do whatever you want to for 40 hours a week while you are on house arrest in Cook County. However, initially they didn't give him a lot of movement, but then he got back involved with his church, brought a letter. They said, can you give me more movement? They gave him more movement. Now, when he set this woman on fire, this was not during the movement time. However, Cook County has already set the standard of you walking outside if you want to, if you are on house arrest, because everybody knows that there will be no repercussion. They said that alerts were going off, that he was not in the house, and Cook County did not respond. So then he goes to the gas station on Harrison and Kedzie, or Harrison and Holman, but it's like right off the expressway. He gets this gas. He gets back on the Blue Line train because he had his bus card, so he had enough sense to pay for the train. He paid for the train, got on the train, a woman was sitting there. He threw the gas on her and set her on fire and said, "You gonna burn your ass up." Now, the man has already had convictions for arson. Like I said, this man is clinically insane. So they catch him, and if you look at his mugshot pictures, you can see that this is obviously not a sane person. So I look at this as a failure of the Cook County courts. This doesn't have anything to do with Brandon. Brandon is only saying what the legislature has said. You know, not me defending Brandon, but me just looking at this from a purely logical perspective. This is a failure of the Illinois Democratic Party and their Safety Act legislation. The Safety Act just causes one to get caught on fire. The Safety Act allows a whole bunch of other violent people to get out of jail, like the illegal that I told you had Megan Boss and a vat of acid dissolving in his backyard in Lake County, Illinois. And he got caught with her body, got caught with desecrating the corpse. Safety Act let him out. He went back home. Her mother had to go to the White House and tell Donald Trump, and Donald Trump came and got him out of here. The Safety Act is responsible for us for our property taxes going up. And that's because we lost our commercial district downtown because it got so violent, and big philanthropists, billionaires like Ken Griffin, who own the Citadel, said, "We're not staying here if this law passes." So they all left. Now we got this huge vacancy rate downtown, and they pushed that commercial levy onto us. So failure after failure after failure of J.B. Pritzker's State House is what got us here right now, not Brandon.
But Brandon is going along with it.
Yeah, well, they're all Democrats. That's why I keep saying dump the Dems. That I don't even, maybe because I'm so over it, I'm not like, yeah, we got to get rid of them. We already know that. It's just time to move on. They're not going to repeal the Safety Act because it was a big to-do when they got it passed. So it's what can you do other than moving your vote in order to push them to do what you want them to do? Other than that, you're wasting your time. This is the Safety Act. Brandon was, like I said, was not wrong in anything he said based on the law as it is written, and he's a part of that political party.
Wow. Well, you are running for Congress.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you are running as a Republican?
Yes.
And you'll let me know when you officially launch the website and everything,
Yes.
so we can start promoting it. But I want to thank you for coming on, P. Ray. I always appreciate you taking the time out and coming with a lot of knowledge, especially about what's going on in the state of Illinois and Chicago. So yeah, I think Trump needs to send in some National Guards, because these teens are out of control, and the mental is out of control. It's just
It's
chaos.
out of control. I mean, completely. But I'll say this: and I'll say this as well. When Brandon said that is an isolated incident, yes, that seems like he's diminishing the severity of it. But in the same breath, the kids are not rioting all over the city. Like the black kids are not rioting in the Austin community. Want to know why? Because they know they're gonna get whooped. Okay, you understand? But when
But
you go downtown,
my
not
thing
whoop
is
like we're gonna beat them
right.
up, but like literally
But my
whooped.
thing is,
You
but my
know.
but my thing is, don't go riot anywhere else. Like
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Dana. What I'm saying is the kids are rioting, but it's not everywhere. They only riot downtown, which means that there is an issue or something downtown that is making them believe it's okay. Do you know that 30 police officers got hurt? They were spraying them with bear mace. They were tasing the police. One police officer went to to the hospital in serious condition. I hear charges, 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 charges. They have to be charged. It has to be publicized to all the children to say, if you decide to do this again, we are going to lock you in Cook County Jail, and then you're going to the Illinois Department of Corrections. That's it. No more tables, round circles, and safety workers, and no. We tried that. We tried it, and now we see it's not working. So we have to go back to what was working, and that again is deterrent through strict punishment. Nothing more, nothing less.
All right. Thank you, P. Ray. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. See you, Miss Dana. Oh, sorry, one more thing. Someone said that is Brandon a Haitian? No, Brandon is not a Haitian. I believe that is actually a rumor started by one of our mutual friends here in Chicago. But when I was the hostess of Black Excellence Hour, that's when that rumor started coming out. And one of his family members called the radio station and said, please stop calling him a Haitian. We are Mississippi Negroes just like
Okay.
everybody else.
Does it fucking matter?
It doesn't, but people like to say, "Oh, he's doing
It doesn't
this
matter.
because
The city is still a shithole. Whether he's hating or
Hey,
not.
too much, Dana. We just going through a challenge. Chicago's not a shithole. Just a challenging moment.
It's a shithole challenge, but it doesn't matter because
Yes.
if he wasn't Haitian, your city is still a mess. It doesn't
Still a mess.
matter.
That's what I'm saying. But people like to say that as a detraction, and I just want to put that out there. No, that's not true. It has
Right.
nothing to do with that. This is the platform of the Socialist Democrats of America, or Democratic Socialists of America, DSA.
All right.
So
Thank
we
you.
move on.
Thank you.
See you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. We got a couple more. We got like 20 minutes for the judge come in. Hopefully he comes in on time. I want to get to Jasmine Crockett. She's becoming my favorite person. And I'm like, I didn't even want her. Okay, this was this comment. I don't even like people to look into the chat and comment unless if you send in a super chat, we can address it. Other than that, I don't want to address nothing in the chat unless it's like something very important. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's Haitian or not. Crime is crime. Kids, teenagers looting. So why even say, oh, he's Haitian? I never knew that. Like, does it matter? Does it matter? And I'm like, people need to stay focused. This is not Peter. I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about you guys. And I'm actually going to record an extensive video this week, and I'm going to drop it on Saturday because I know people are proud to say FBA. Fine. If you want to quote unquote delineate, cool. But do you know what that means to delineate? If you guys are not participating in politics where you live at, if you're not organizing, if you're not going through the system of policies, whether you are reaching out to your council person or your mayor to get license or vendor license to open up a business, if you have never been through the political process of doing anything in your community to build it up, to bring in resources, whether it's home ownership or whatever, you're delineating for what? When you have no power and you don't know how to obtain it. And we really need to have that conversation. Because it's one thing to have a hashtag FBA or a hashtag ADOS or anything you want to call yourself. And it's okay that on online they say you're delineating, and I think it's more mentally delineating. But when it comes to the action, see, talk is cheap. And if you're not going to put no action behind your words, have several seats. Just be quiet. Or you sound silly. You sound like a bunch of ignorant people just talking. And that's how I look at people and I'm like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing where you live at? Or is this is just online conversation? So yeah. Delineation means action. It doesn't mean I'm not associating with a group or a person. It means you have to take action. So I just wanted to drop that there before I get into the Jasmine Crockett. And like I said, I'm not talking about P-Ray because P-Ray is running for Congress in Chicago. She knows about the law, the legislation, the public policies, everything. So she's somebody that is doing something, which is why I have her up here. All right. So I want to get into Jasmine Crockett. Where is it? Because I know I had it. It's right here. So I got a few more minutes for the judge come up. Jasmine Crockett is becoming my favorite person. She is. Because she likes to talk. She talk big mess. She does. She talks. She's a talker. And she has, I'm pretty sure, a serious war chest behind her. She has some powerful heavy hitters. And what was a surprise, what was breaking news last week, Marjorie Taylor Greene is resigning from her Congress house, from being House Representative on January 5th. She's calling it quits. Her and Trump had a falling out, right? And of course, Jasmine Crockett was not going to miss up on this opportunity to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene leaving Congress. I wouldn't have left. However, come to find out, Trump is endorsing Marjorie Taylor Greene rival in her district for next year's reelection. So she has another Republican that was going to be running against her, and Trump endorsed the other Republican candidate. And if you have Trump's endorsement, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win. And I guess she didn't want to go through that headache. I don't blame her. So I don't think she quit because she was upset. It wasn't an emotional decision. She was being very strategic, and she may run. We're starting to hear rumors that she may run in 2028. But of course, Jasmine Crockett here, honey, was not going to let this opportunity go by without saying a few words.
Congresswoman Greene, what went through your mind when you first heard she was going to resign on January 5th?
You know what? Honestly, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You're on the other side of the president for 1 week and you can't take the heat. Imagine what it is to sit in my shoes, to not only be on the opposite side of him, but to have people like her who are constantly fanning the flames of hate. And imagine what those threats look like when you literally are someone like me. But at the end of the day, I know that I serve the people of Texas 30. And so my job isn't to be there and necessarily do whatever is going to make the president not be on my back, but instead is to focus on making sure that I can push forward with policies that are positive for Texas 30.
Here's an excerpt from her resignation video. Take a listen.
Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for.
So she seems to be suggesting that it is their disagreement over the release of the Epstein files that is causing this shocking political breakup. What's your response to that?
I mean, listen, he's upset with Thomas Massie, and so he's gone after him. He's upset with Boebert. He's upset with any Republican that actually signed the discharge petition. But somehow they were able to weather the storm. So, you know, this really speaks to the fact that Marjorie, who has been an instigator of a lot of this hate that we see as it relates to the MAGA movement, you know, it's just interesting that I don't know if she really fully understood how bad she was making it for other people. And now that they're doing it to her, you know, I just got to say, well, why is it that everyone else is able to stand and you can't?
The House Oversight Committee, which you are a member of, said Friday night that your committee is expanding its investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Do you have any idea what this expanded investigation might include?
I do not at this point in time. Well, I'll say leadership is keeping it under wraps to make sure that we can hopefully not have many more obstacles. If you'll remember, we decided that we were going to put out a subpoena for Ghislaine Maxwell, and the next thing you know, the president's henchman showed up to her cell, and the next thing you know, we didn't have our sit-down talk with her, which I imagine would have gone a little differently if we had. So we're keeping that tight-lipped for now.
The chairman of the Oversight Committee, James Comer of Kentucky, says that Democrats are just trying to use these files to smear the president. Just to be clear, do you or your colleagues have any idea about what's in these files, one way or the other, relating to Trump or not?
Absolutely not. I mean, here's the reality. If we did have that information, I don't know that we would need it necessarily to be released. And we know that the Republicans keep saying, you know, figure out what it is the Democrats have done and make sure that you can pull out the Democratic stuff and make sure you get rid of all the Republican names. Listen, I don't really care who is in the files. At the end of the day, right is right, wrong is wrong. And if you are truly about law and order, then we should be looking for who it is that has broken the law and in what ways. And we need to better understand who potentially in government allowed for a lot of these things to take place, whether we're talking about the fake immigration paperwork that we've heard from a lot of the survivors, whether we're talking about other foreign governments that have participated and who it was that allowed for that, whether we're talking about the sham organizations, the sham modeling agencies that were nothing but a front for trafficking. We need to know whether or not they still exist in some other iteration. This is about not only making sure that the survivors get justice, but making sure that there aren't others that are going through a similar system right now.
There was a back and forth this week after you accused former Republican Congressman, now EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin of...
So before I continue playing, here's the thing with the Epstein's files for me. Democrats wanted, Republicans want the files to be released. Okay, the files get released, then what? Then what? You're going to see probably a lot of big time bankers that work for JP Morgan and other big time bankers, stockbrokers, CEOs, or just wealthy, powerful people, or not so wealthy. Of course, some politicians locally, statewide, and federal. Okay. And then what? See, the problem with that is you're going to release it. It's probably going to be redacted. And then Pam Bondi is going to make sure that whatever they release is going to be more Democrats in it. It's all a game. Because I understand if you guys are saying release the Epstein's file because we need to know, who was trafficking these women. And then you back it up by saying we are going to pass laws. We are going to go hunt these people down, these entities these networks of human trafficking? Are you going to call in for bounty hunters or whoever to find missing children and young adults, girls and boys, men and women who are being human trafficked as we speak? What is Congress going to do once the files are released? Where are the bills? Where are the public policies that you guys should already have written up to pass to make sure that Americans are feeling safe, or that a parent don't have to worry about when their kid running away or being coerced online to meet up with a grown man? What are you going to do about it once these files are released? And nobody is having that conversation. It is all a distraction. No, there has been no politician, whether it's Republican or Democrat, that has said we need more laws, better laws to prevent human trafficking. No one is not talking about that. They just want the tea and the gossip.
Accepting campaign donations from Jeffrey Epstein. It turned out it wasn't convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It was a Long Island neurosurgeon, Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, different person. You corrected the record. However, now the neurosurgeon is telling the New York Post that he is threatening revenge against you. He's going to donate to your campaign, so you have to admit you accepted money from a Jeffrey Epstein, if not the Jeffrey Epstein. What's your response to that?
Listen, if there's anybody else who's alive and decides that they want to donate just so that you'll be on my FEC report, I am here for it. I will take your donation, especially since Jeffrey Epstein is now deceased. I don't think that it will be confusing whatsoever that it was not him, unless he's come back from the dead. So we'll see.
So you are, we're told, weighing a decision on whether to jump into this Texas Senate race, challenging Republican Senator John Cornyn for his seat, although it's unclear that Cornyn will survive a Republican primary. You said you had a meeting this week with pollsters to discuss your chances. Did you have that meeting? And if so, how did it go? Are you still thinking about running?
I am still thinking about running. We did get our polling back. So we are moving on to the next phase to determine whether or not this is would make sense in the moment, and if the infrastructure can be built out in the way that I see it being necessary to actually be able to win, as well as we are continuing to look at the polling on the other side. Listen, they are in a civil war right now on the Republican side as it relates to who will become their nominee. John Cornyn has served the state of Texas for decades at this point in time in some capacity. And right now, I don't know if he's MAGA enough to make it through his primary, but we are evaluating all things and seeing what it would look like to put together a team. And we will make a final decision by Thanksgiving on whether or not we're going to ultimately move forward.
What did the polling information that you got back show? I mean, is it a calculation of whether or not you're going to be facing Cornyn, who might have more appeal to moderates in your state, centrists in your state, as opposed to a more MAGA candidate who potentially defeats Cornyn in the primary that you might, or any Democrat might, have a better chance against?
I'll tell you this, that head to head, we are doing really well against Paxton. I will say that. I will also tell you that we are actually within the margin of error as it relates to John Cornyn. So to be perfectly honest, the only reason that I'm continuing to consider whether or not I do this is because my polling says I can win. That is the bottom line. But at the end of the day, a poll is a poll. And so you need to actually be able to execute on that. So whether it's Cornyn or whether it's Paxton, we feel confident that we can get this done. The thing is, we obviously would prefer to have Paxton.
Right.
So I did a little bit of research. Yes, I did. And it's like, well, why would she prefer to have Paxton? Well, let me show you why. Let's make this bigger. So Attorney General, Ken Paxton is Attorney General for Texas. And his former aides just won a $6.6 million whistleblower case. right? He has a lot of dirty baggage. He does. He has a lot of dirty baggage. A lot of corrupt, dirty baggage. So he fired 4 of his aides in 2024 because they went to the Justice Department to blow the whistle on his corruption. I don't want to talk about the case that they won. I want to get to the meat on what happened. So here we go here. Let me see what this looks like. I need to make this bigger. How can I do that? I have to do it like this. Yeah. Well, there, this is perfect. So, Attorney General Ken Paxton of Texas, and this is why Jasmine Crockett wants to run up against him because they could just drag his ass. The case was sparked when 8 former aides, including 4 plaintiffs, reported Paxton to federal authorities September 2020. I'm sorry, not 2024, 2020, over his relations with Nate Paul, a friend and Austin real estate investor. The whistleblowers accused Paxton of abusing his office to do favors for Paul, including by hiring an outside lawyer to investigate claims by Paul and providing him confidential law enforcement documents. In the days and weeks after the whistleblowers met with federal agents, a development they reported to Paxton, the attorney general fired them. So 4 of them sued Paxton in November of 2020, alleging their dismissal were illegal under the state law. The attorney general, Ken Paxton, disagreed but offered to settle the suit and pay the whistleblowers $3.3 million. However, because listen, $3.3 million is actually more than what they were just granted by a judge. The problem with that, Attorney General Ken Paxton asked the Texas House for the money in 2023. And lawmakers wanted him to publicly answer questions about why Texas taxpayers should foot the bill basically for his corruption. The House Ethnic Committee began investigating Paxton, and in May that year, the chambers impeached him on corruption and bribery charges based heavily on whistleblowers' testimony. The House investigators claimed that in return for favors from Paxton, Paul paid for renovations at an Austin home that Attorney General Paxton and his wife. Paul paid for renovations at an Austin home owned by Paxton and his wife, and also employed a woman with whom Paxton had an extramarital affair. So he has corruption, he has extramarital affairs, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be some more side pieces falling out. This Senate run is already messy, and she hasn't even announced yet, Jasmine Crockett. After a 2-week high-profile trial, Texas Senate acquitted Paxton for 16 charges and dismissed the remaining 4. The trial cost the state $5.1 million, according to the state auditor's office released in March that was requested by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Months later, in the still pending whistleblower case in the state, Paxton said he would no longer contest the facts of the case, despite the fact that allegations by the whistleblowers were similar to the ones his lawyer and vigorously disputed during the impeachment trial. November 2024, the Texas Supreme Court ruled that Paxton and 3 of his top deputies did not have to sit for depositions under oath because Paxton's agreement not to consent the lawsuit made the sworn testimony unnecessary. Paxton also dodged a federal lawsuit, according to Associated Press, when the Department of Justice declined, check this out, declined to prosecute him in the final days of the former President Joe Biden's administration. Still, Paxton levied culpability on Biden in his statement to the Tribune Friday night, claiming the House impeachment efforts were in collusion with Joe Biden's corrupt DOJ. So he's calling Joe Biden's Department of Justice corrupt. The Democrats right now is calling Trump administration DOJ corrupt. All of these motherfuckers are corrupt on a state level and a federal level. So this attorney Ken Paxton, he is the ideal candidate for Jasmine Crockett and her loud mouth. She is very vocal. She is heavily backed by the DNC. Her war chest is fully funded. Democrats own social media and mainstream media. Yes, she wants to run against Ken Paxton because she will win. Now, I didn't do research yet on the other guy, Karn or whoever, and I'll do research on him later. But she may just win the Senate. And if she does, God help us. Well, God help y'all in Texas, but senators do vote on laws and policies that affect all of us throughout this nation. But I'm sorry, this right here, this man got off scotch-free. He was actually charged with, and I had it here. What was the actual charge? But the law that he broke, I'm sorry, the law that he actually broke. Oh, Paxton office violated the Texas Whistleblower Act. Yeah. And they were awarded 1.1 and 2.1 million for wages lost and compensation for emotional pain. So the 3.3 million he was going to offer each aid, he wanted the taxpayers of Texas to pay for it. And the state reps was like, well, if you want them to pay for it, you're going to have to tell us what happened. He was like, nope, I'm not going to tell you what happened because I don't want to have to, go into details, but I'll just tell you that I'm guilty. And then you have a judge toss all that shit out, but paid the former aides. A hot mess. Either way, this is why she wants Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, to run for Senate, because she knows she could definitely win against him. It's a shoo-in. No, I'm not a Democrat. No. This is just one of her opponents. See, Ken Paxton won't make it out of the primary. Maybe the other guy will, and I forgot his name. Like I said, I'll do research on him later. But Ken Paxton is dirty. And see, so going back to the FBA, right? Going back to FBA and this whole delineation. He is not the only dirty attorney general. He is not the only dirty, corrupt politician in your state. Each state in the United States of America has corrupt politicians. They're in Congress, they're in your state Senate, they're in your governor's office, they're in your mayor's office, your city council, they're even in the White House. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter. They're all liars. You should never believe a politician. But apparently, we the people forget that we are the forecasters. The politicians are just supposed to be the presenters. But it's switched. You guys actually think politicians are the forecasters. And they know you think that way. That is why they always take advantage of us. They take advantage of the votes. They take advantage of your vulnerability. They take advantage of you being poor. They only do things for corporations and CEOs and C-suites and wealthy people. Not for us. And Jasmine Crockett, she talked big shit. And maybe she does have a squeaky clean background. And if she gets into the Senate seat to be a senator representing Texas, she's going to be there for a while. And this is what the DNC does. Maxine Waters. Oh, gotta play that clip. Maxine Waters. She's about to retire. She's old. Nancy Pelosi is already retiring. Chuck Schumer, he needs to retire. Hakeem is still young. He's going to be there. The AOCs, Jasmine Crockett, that is the future of not only the Congressional Black Caucus, but that is the future of the Democrat Party. Young, loud, socialists, left, woke, everything that is anti really America. They're pro illegals, right? They're pro everything else that's not going to really help America. But hey, that is the future of the Democrat Party. And so, speaking of Maxine Waters and socialism, I thought I saved that. Oh, here we go. Ciao. Honey, did y'all see this? Again, who's the one eye on my dollar bill? I'm confused. Katalia! Okay, they enact tougher laws on paper, then what? They have enough law of criminalizing all these laws without the teeth of enforcement. You're absolutely right, Alonzo. You're absolutely right. They want these Epstein files to be released. They're not going to do nothing but use it to throw dirt on each other during next year election season for the midterms. They're just using the Epstein files to discredit one another. This is a circus. Yes, term limits are needed. Not just, oh, you could keep running, you could keep running. No, if a president can only be president for 2 terms, Congress needs term limits. They do. So speaking of Congress, honey, I came across a clip. And then I said, whoa, where is the full video of this? So this is Maxine Waters being accused by a Republican. What's her name? I thought I had it. I did write it down. I didn't even put that here. I don't even have it there. Oh, no. That's all the way down here. Actually, give me a second. I told him 9 o'clock, which is 8 his time. See where he's at. Yeah, I don't know. Where is he? Honey, he got a new phone. He don't know how to act.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm held up because the National Guard's got a roadblock up here about 2 blocks, well, half a mile from my house. So let me flash my badge and get the hell on through here.
How long you gonna be?
3 or 4 minutes.
That's like 10, 15 minutes.
Well, I mean, I am essentially at my street.
Honey, the National Guards are not in Memphis.
Yeah, they are.
No, they're not.
They're here because they got deputized by the U.S. Marshal. They're U.S. Marshals, Deputy U.S. Marshals. And they didn't sue Trump. They sued the governor and the attorney general for the state and the commander of the Tennessee National Guard in the lawsuit. And they got a stay on what was happening. So, yeah, they're still here. And they're also acting as U.S. Marshals.
I can look it up right now, and I think it's not.
Well, you can look it up, but look up U.S. Marshals. They're still here. They just deputize these guys, or a bunch of them. So anyway,
I'm live right now, and I told you at 9. I told you 8 o'clock your time.
Give me 3 or 4 minutes. I'll be there.
You're not going to be at home in 3 or 4 minutes. What you say? Wait, who did you say was deputized? Who was deputized? Who was deputized in Memphis?
They deputized a lot of the Tennessee National Guard. They're U.S. Marshals now. Or deputy U.S. Marshals, you know, like Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and Pat Masterson and what's his name in Gunsmoke, you know, or Bass Reeves. That's what they did with them. U.S. Marshal just deputized.
Yeah, no, they did not, because it was a judge, and we talked about this last week.
That bitch is, I found out who that bitch is. She was elected up in Nashville. She is not answerable to the people in Memphis because she's up in Nashville. They filed the fucking thing up there, and they got a thing going on right now about it's the wrong fucking jurisdiction to do it.
I just Googled it. Listen, I just Googled it. Said no, the Tennessee. Listen. It says no, the Tennessee National Guard is not automatically deputized in Tennessee, but they can. Let me finish reading it. But they can be temporarily deputized for specific missions. For example, Guardsmen were deputized by the U.S. Marshals to support Memphis Police Department in specific operations, but they would not be able to make arrests or issue warrants. So again, first of all, you
arrest anyway. If you got somebody standing there at a National Guard with an M4 carbine, which is a real live machine gun, and he's backing up a cop with rules of engagement saying you may blow this stupid motherfucker's ass away.
I hope you know I got you on live. You on speaker on live.
So if you can blow his ass away if he gets out of line as a rules of engagement, you good to go.
And first of all, yeah, you ain't held up. Like, you need to stop with the lying. You went out.
Now, if you want to keep me live while I'm going home, that's fine. We can talk. But I will be there in a little bit.
What's a little bit? Is it is a little bit 10 minutes?
Well, couldn't be helped.
You're not even in your car.
I'm in my car.
You're not driving.
I am driving.
Blow the horn. Blow the horn. I can't blow the horn. That's not you blowing no damn horn.
That's me blowing a horn. I'm not in my 911.
No, you in somebody else's car.
It's Porsche. I am in a Porsche Macan.
You in somebody else's car.
No, I'm in a loan car from the dealer.
Blow the horn again.
Well, that's kind of.
But you're not driving. That's what I'm saying.
Listen.
But you're not driving.
I'm driving. It's quiet. Everything Force makes doesn't go 200 miles an hour. It even has some of these idiot aids, so if you turn it on, it stays in the middle of your lane.
Well, who was the woman who you just had dinner with? Huh?
A person who had some interesting information. They used to work.
Right. Right. So why you should listen, why didn't you?
No, I can't talk about that.
Yeah, I don't want you to talk about it. The reason why I asked you that is
But it wasn't that kind of thing.
it doesn't matter because you should have led with that instead of telling me about some National Guard.
Wait a second. This person used to work down in the belly of the beast and always has a lot of good information, about 65, 70 years old. And there's an upkeep on what's going on around here. So it was business. It wasn't pleasure.
It doesn't matter. Don't tell me National Guard.
She and I have known each other for 45 years. We've been good friends, and that's it.
That ain't the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making here is I knew you was out having dinner. So don't tell me about some National Guard.
If you hold on, I will be there shortly.
What is shortly?
They are clearing me. So
You're driving. What do you mean they're clearing you?
Well, that's because I'm getting away from what they're doing. They've got these idiots around here who think that it's better for theft and death to reign in this area than it is to have law and order because they're trying to save the American public from the evil boogeyman they call Donald Trump. So that's crazy. You'd rather... Nobody is buying this. It's a bankrupt policy by the Democratic Party to say you should suffer theft and death because we're saving you for something horrible, which is actually what we're trying to do to you. So it's a real con game, and it's stupid, and it's going to backfire.
So, because I need for you to hurry up and get home because I wanted you to talk about the breaking news that Leticia James and James Comey charges got tossed out by a judge.
Well, it can be tossed out by a judge. You take Judge Schindler, Judge Judy's husband, who ran divorce court after Judge Koch, a.k.a. Mayor Koch of New York, had it. And he dismissed 3 cases that resulted in riots and were reimposed by the New York appellate courts. And he had more reversals than any other judge in New York history. So he threw out a lot of stuff. One of the cases he threw out was a Haitian immigrant who was sodomized with a broomstick inside a police precinct. He dismissed the charges. There was a riot. The charges were reinstated and the cops were convicted. Another one was when somebody was a deaf mute, was shot 14 times, I think it was, on the landing of an apartment building when he was trying to show these police his credentials that he was a deaf mute. And Schindler threw the charges out. There was a riot. The charges were reinstated and the cops were convicted. The other one down in Spanish Harlem was when Broom and his best man were taking the smoke outside of a wedding reception. They were unarmed and they got shot quite a few times by several cops. And Schindler threw the charges out. There was another riot. The charges were reinstated and the cops were convicted. So, I mean, just because a judge throws things out doesn't mean it will stand. There are several thousand district court judges for the federal system in the United States. And they have to answer the courts of appeal, and they don't always make it. So in this case, by the way, it's not even a federal situation, it's a state situation. So these particular individuals will have to answer to, not individuals, but the judge in question will have to answer to a state series of appellate courts, and it doesn't always work. I know how that works because I had to go through it myself. And many a time a judge would sit up and do something and an appellate court would throw it out. They didn't do it with me. I never had a full reversal in the 16 years worth of term I got elected to, but some other people did. Now, that's just the way life goes, and it deals with the way the judges look at stuff. And you may have a judge that has never tried a criminal case as a lawyer in his or her career. You may have one that's tried a whole bunch of cases. And what winds up happening depends to a great extent on who the judge is, what the experience level is, and how academic they are about their knowledge of law. They should be wise and experienced in law and wise in the ways of the world. And some judges are not. So,
all right.
He's got jacked by some state court action and a state grand jury. So let's see what happens on the state level. But nobody's through with her tacky behind. So we'll see what happens.
Well, it's been 12 minutes. So,
and I am looking at my house right now. So I am pulling up to my.
All right.
I'm going to be set upon by ferociously friendly groups.
All right. So I see you in 5 minutes.
Yes, you should.
I don't even think you're home yet. I think you're lying to me again.
I'm home right now, and I'm pulling in my driveway.
Okay. See you in 5.
Ciao.
Ciao. Okay. So the judge is late. He on that CPT time. Heavy. All right, so while we wait for him, honey, let me play this clip of Maxine Waters and what was this congresswoman name again? Oh, Maria Salazar. Yeah, I'm talking about socialism.
Recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there is someone who has seen the horrors of socialism up close within the Democratic Party, is in the House, and it's the Honorable Congresswoman Maxine Waters. And I would love for you to support this resolution specifically, because Madam Waters, for decades, you traveled to Cuba dozens of times to visit Fidel Castro personally, whom you consider your friend. Congresswoman Waters was in Havana, and she saw the destruction of biblical proportions that Castro caused on that island, who at the time in 1960 had the highest per capita income in the Western Hemisphere. At that time, Madam Waters knew that thousands and thousands of Cubans were escaping on a raft, exposing their lives and their children to be eaten by the sharks. She knew that Afro-Cubans were being beaten on the streets of Havana, discriminated against by Fidel Castro, Mr. Speaker. And for that reason, I am bringing up all these facts, because Madam Waters knew that the Cuban jails were full of political prisoners, and the Cubans did not have the same privileges that we are having right now to speak freely. At that time, Madam Waters never raised her voice to denounce the horrors of socialism, Mr. Speaker. For that reason, I am asking Madam Waters
For what purpose the lady from California seeks recognition?
I move to take her words down.
Order. The House will be in order. The lady from California, for what purpose do you rise?
I rise to take down her words.
Personal attack.
Mm-hmm.
Lady from Florida, please be seated. I'd ask the clerk to please report the words.
Honey, it's nothing but chaos in the House of Representatives. If you notice, the Senate is more professional run. It's always chaos in the House of Representatives. Strike down words, reprieve my time. Oh, it's just too much. Wasting time.
The lady from Florida is recognized.
All right, so I'm asking for unanimous consent to withdraw the violations of the rules and continue with my speech, which is that if there are many people on this floor that have seen.
Without objection, the words are withdrawn.
Objection is heard.
Objection is heard.
Objection is withdrawn.
The objection is withdrawn. The gentlelady from Florida, her request is accepted with unanimous consent. The gentlelady from Florida is recognized. The gentleman from Arkansas.
The House is not in order.
The gentleman is correct. The House is not in order. With any luck, we'll get back to business. Please take your conversations off the floor of the House. The gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
There are many people on this floor who have seen the horrors of communism. They have been to Cuba. They have been friends with Fidel Castro. They have seen the jails full of Cuban prisoners. They have seen people preparing rafts to die in the middle of the ocean, eaten by sharks. There are many people on the Democratic Party who have witnessed that and have not said anything. So for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I am asking some of my colleagues on that side of the aisle, many of them who are very good friends of mine, to understand that denouncing communism and socialism is the right thing to do for the Democratic Party. And if some of the highest, most important members of the Democratic Party on that side of the aisle were to vote with us, they would be doing a very favor to the Republic, and not only that, to the Democratic Party. They will become the new champions. And the Democratic Party will be now the champion for freedom in the Western Hemisphere. I yield back.
Lady from Florida yields. The gentleman from Arkansas reserves. Chair recognizes the lady from California.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Ms. Salazar for withdrawing her words, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The lady from California reserves a balance of her time. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'm prepared to close if the gentleman from California is.
Lady from California.
I am prepared to close, Mr. Speaker. Let's get on with this discussion about socialism. Mr. Speaker, instead of legislating and doing the work to tackle real problems that Americans face, like the skyrocketing cost of groceries, rising rents and mortgage payments, and the absolute...
Ladies and gentlemen, the House is not in order. Please take your conversations off the floor of the House. The lady from California is recognized.
Thank you so very much.
Americans again face the skyrocketing cost of groceries, rising rents and mortgage payments, and the Republicans have always opposed Medicaid and Medicare, and they've been undermining it since day one. And they do not want to fix the catastrophic economic policies of this administration. And I want you to know that this administration is responsible for the situation that we find ourselves in with this failing economy. The Trump administration must take the credit for what is happening with the loss of food for our children for a limited period of time before we fought to get it back.
Ladies, time has expired.
Vote no. I vote no. I haven't finished, but I'll vote no. I want you to vote no because this is absolutely unnecessary.
The lady from California.
Okay. So can you guys hear me? Here are my 2 cents, right? Because, you know, that Maria Salazar was accusing Maxine Waters of being a socialist. She went to Cuba. She met with Fidel Castro. She called him his friend. Why Fidel Castro, Fidel Castro still had political prisoners and people were, you know, escaping Cuba on rafts to come to the United States. And yes, the United States allowed a lot of Cubans to come here to start over. But here's the thing about that. Because I understand the sentiments that Black Americans have with Cuba and Fidel Castro. Because the people that was banished from Cuba and had their land taken from them, they were the white Cubans. Whereas the darker Cubans, the Afro-Cubans, were treated as second and third class citizens of Cuba. It was a lot of racism and a lot of segregation policies in Cuba. And when Fidel came into power, he did turn it into a socialist country, but he made everything equal for everybody. And he took the land and businesses away from these wealthy white Cubans. And they all came to Miami. They got all types of economic uplift for our federal and state government. So, you know, it's like, I get it. You don't like Fidel. A lot of people don't. His government and his policies were not perfect. But when you look at the mistreatment of Afro-Cubans, even to this day, Black Americans are going to sympathize and have empathy for that and champion, you know, and be supportive of them. And speaking of political prisoners, because this is not a socialist country here. I don't want it to be a socialist country. I'm not a socialist. But we do the same things as socialist leaders that you call dictators do. Because how many Black Panther Party members are still in prison to this day from the 70s? Over a dozen. They're never coming home. A lot of them died in prison. We have a lot of political prisoners here. So it's funny how, and this is why, listen, this is why I say that Congress, these politicians, they're all liars. They're all hypocrites. Stop believing everything they say. Because it's what do you call it? It's the pot calling the kettle black. We have hundreds of political prisoners here that should have had a fair trial or been released, and they have not. A lot of things Fidel Castro has done in Cuba, the American government has done here. But Black Americans are always going to be in solidarity with the Afro-Cubans. History tells us that. That Congresswoman Maria someone, she is of the white Cuban lineage. I have another clip on that house floor that I wanted to show. because there's another congresswoman that was going in on Maxine Waters, calling her a socialist. Let me get this out of here. Where is it? I just had the damn thing. I just seen it. Where is it? Wait. Was it this chick?
On the House floor on November 21st, Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis and Congresswoman Waters went toe-to-toe in a heated exchange over socialism, what it is and whether the United States is drifting towards it. Watch their fiery debate right here.
Millions of immigrants in this country fled their homeland to come to the United States to escape socialism and communism. Just ask your constituents from Russia, from Poland, from Albania, from China, from Korea, from Vietnam, from Venezuela, or Cuba, where my mother fled in 1959 to escape the very things that our new socialist mayor in New York City says he wants. A socialist who says he wants to seize the means of production. He wants to abolish private property rights. He wants government-run supermarkets. Yes, he says he's a socialist. But guess what, my friends? Those are policies straight out of the communist playbook of Karl Marx. So there is no difference between socialism and communism. And where these policies were tried, yes, they failed.
Let me just say that the young lady talked about working hard, and socialism, robs families of what they've worked hard for and what they've earned. Well, I want to ask you, what is this administration doing when it takes 10% equity stake in Intel, 15% equity stake in MP Materials, and 10% equity stake in Lithium Americas, 10% equity stake in Triology Metals, and a, quote, golden share in U.S. Steel Corporation? What is that? Now, the Republicans have tried to confuse you on what is socialism and even called it communism light. That is an absolute distraction from what we're discussing here today. Communism is communism, socialism is socialism, and a government run by someone who is not taking into consideration the facts and the harm and the threat that they're doing to education, the attempt to take over law firms, the attempt to tell some of the finest universities in this country what they can teach and what they cannot teach, and I repeat, giving away our money to a country, $40 billion at a time when that money is so desperately needed in this government.
So, again, the hypocrisy. I see the judge, he's backstage. So I hear Maxine Waters. She made some valid points, but guess what? Maxine Waters, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Democrats do it too. You guys are both the problem. You practice the same hypocrisy. You sent billions of dollars to Ukraine when Biden was in office. You actually spent billions of dollars on illegals when you allowed the borders to be open. Food was high under Biden. Inflation was high. Gas was high. Everything you were accusing the Trump administration of doing in the last 10 months, Biden was doing in the last 4 years. And you're right. Socialism is socialism. Communism, communism. Capitalism is capitalism. This is a capitalist country. Free market. But you guys in Congress, you favor corporations over human beings. Why? Because in the Constitution, corporations are considered a person, and corporations fund your campaign. And they know how to funnel more money through shell companies, or they fund the DNC or the RNC. Both parties do it. So this is what I'm saying. It is, the Congress is ghetto. Somebody put a comment, Congress is ghetto. They are. They don't get any work done. They just argue, accuse each other of doing this, of doing that. Nothing gets done. They want to claim like they're working so hard for the American people. They're not. And majority of Americans fall for the BS every single time. Okay. Judge, let me know when you're ready. Honey, you sitting in the dark. I see nothing but darkness. FYI, I thought I was doing something new starting at 8. No, baby. The algorithm knows Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I said this before because I did at 8 o'clock before and the views were horrible. And I said, I'm never doing at 8 o'clock again. And I'm doing at 8 o'clock. I need to stop. 9 p.m. on Mondays, not 3, not 8, 9 p.m. on Monday. Whether the judge want to be here or not, whether he on CPT time or not, I'm going to be here Mondays at 9 p.m. I'm going to be here Wednesdays at 3. Fridays is always a question mark. Thank you, Jackal. Ownership in a lithium company isn't socialism. It's a national security maneuver. The U.S. government can now block that company's board from selling to our enemies, etc. 10% ownership. I'm sorry, 10% ownership, you said, in a lithium company isn't socialism. Thank you, the Jackals of Terra Argentum. Judge, why? Hello? You in the dark, honey?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get light. So
Okay.
here.
You want me to put you backstage?
Well, here I'm going to put light on.
Well, you want me to bring you back when you get settled?
Well, it won't do any good if I can't get this working.
I want people seeing your house, honey, knowing your business.
No, nothing to see right now. Okay, here we go, loop-de-loop. This isn't doing what it's supposed to do.
What is it? You got to turn the light on in your house.
I know. I've got a ring light and a new setup with a
Okay, well,
stand.
we should have did. Don't worry about the ring light. Just turn on the main light.
Well, the main light ain't over here, and the other thing is it's a real mess in the other room. They finished up the floor. Okay.
You're not going to be in the other room where your barbecue banners are?
No, we are in another room because we got to deal with ah, okay. Now where is the ring light?
You still need a main light if you want to use the.
I know. Here's what I'm doing with the main thing.
Oh, hey, he got him a new phone. He got rid of that hacker. You can't tell him nothing.
Hey, it took me some doing to get rid of that hacker. I'll tell you.
Please don't. I don't want to hear the story because we got to get
No,
into.
I mean, I'm not going to give you the story. Okay. It won't do much good if this isn't.
Now that you have your phone, your new phone up and running, can you create a new Twitter account?
No, because it's the same phone number. And the son of a bitches are low down and they were trying to get me blocked out of this. and they achieved their purposes just in the midst of some crucial stuff. So we will see where we go. Okay, I may have to go into the other room.
Yeah, honey, because it looked like you got a flashlight shining on you. You need the main light on.
Can't do it in the old place because there are boxes stacked there. I had a little disruption. This thing didn't dry. I got a very sticky floor here. My kitchen floor is shining like a mirror. Back, girl. You can't come in here.
Why your dogs don't never go to sleep? My dog is right over there sleeping in his bed.
Well, they don't. So let's see.
I'm in the mahogany. Hi, baby.
She's not
Purity.
here. She's
Oh,
not here.
Purity.
Here he is. You got her going.
Purity, honey, needs to be in bed.
It's only 8 something, 8:30.
Because you
She's a
keep her locked
grown
up in that
girl.
cage.
She's a grown girl. She's trying to do what she does.
What are you doing?
Trying to find a chair that my maid put someplace. Okay, where'd you put the chairs? Okay, very weird. Very weird.
I told you I'll put you backstage.
Well, here's a chair. I'll go get the chair. The floor is
Yeah, Marquise, your
shining.
2 dogs and cat, because dogs supposed to go to bed. Their bedtime is 8, and they sense that. So, and then they wake up like 6, 7.
Well, like a friend of mine named Night Wolf, and the dogs know about being night animals. Wolves go out and hunt at night. Dogs are essentially wolves that have been turned Negro wolves, so they are
Oh,
domesticated.
okay. So while you get set up, FYI, please do not say coon. Don't say skinhead. The coon. What do you call her? Scoop ball head. Like, refrain from those names.
Like who are we referring to?
So even though when we was talking about Adam Clay and Powell, and you was like, but the coon Negroes today, don't say coon anymore.
We can't. Why not?
I'll tell you off the air.
Okay.
So who is the Contra saying my cat is sleeping in her Walmart box? Hey, my dog is over there. He's sleeping in his bed, snoring.
Well, mine.
Parody running around the house like it's 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's what she does. Behave in there, dear.
That's the new computer over there?
Yeah. It looks like the old one, but
Yo, this new phone, I could tell is new. The lens are crisp. Check you out, honey. About time. You got it together. He had that phone for 30 days.
I couldn't turn it on. I had to upload the old one by cable to the desktop then download the desktop to the new one,
You
then
sound good.
erase data on the cloud, all the cloud data, and then uh, store what was needed on the damage done by erasing all of the cloud data on the new one. And then once that was going well, then what I had to wind up doing was syncing the new one to the cloud, and I got rid of the hack. So
Well,
let's see.
all right. So then let's kind of swing back
Okay,
to
here we go.
the Letitia James conversation, right? Because I wanted to play this clip.
Tishy.
Big Tish. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, that looks cool. So let me just play the first couple of minutes of this.
Justice Department's case against former FBI Director Jim Comey and the New York Attorney General have both been dismissed. CNN's Caitlin Polance is covering this. Caitlin, okay, what happened here? I don't know which case you want to take first.
Well, they both are being dismissed, and for essentially the same reason that Lindsay Halligan, the Eastern District of Virginia interim U.S. attorney sent there by Donald Trump, not Senate confirmed, that she doesn't have the power. What the judge here has found, this is Judge Cameron Curry from South Carolina. She came into the district, heard arguments from both of the lawyers on these cases against Lindsay Halligan's role. They argued that she didn't have the power because she wasn't Senate confirmed, and thus these indictments are invalid. The judge is agreeing with that. Judge Curry is saying that the Attorney General's attempt to install Ms. Halligan as interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was invalid. And because Ms. Halligan had no lawful authority to present the indictment, James Comey's motion is granted, the indictment is dismissed. Now, the judge does mention that this is without prejudice. So in legal speak, that means that it could be brought back by another prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia if they took it through the grand jury again. But everything Lindsay Halligan did at the end of September, beginning of October, and since then, this judge is saying she couldn't have done that. She didn't have the authority. She was not confirmed by Congress, by the U.S. Senate as the Eastern District of Virginia's U.S. attorney, and thus the president went out of his bounds, and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, also overstepped her bounds in sending Lindsay Halligan into this district to get these indictments against both Comey and James.
And can I raise a question with Comey? I know that she had made, at least the judge pointed out, a serious error when it came to the grand jury. So what we're saying now is even that mistake that everyone had been talking about, it's moot, because essentially what I'm hearing you say is they're saying she shouldn't have been in the job in the first place.
It may be moot, yes. We still are waiting to see if Judge Nachmanoff, the presiding judge over this case, what he does. He hasn't actually entered into the record yet that the cases are dismissed. We just have this other order from the judge saying that the indictment against James should be dismissed, the indictment against Comey should be dismissed. We'll see what this other judge does now with that. But this isn't about, Audie, what you are bringing up, what Lindsay Halligan may have done with the grand jury in getting the indictment of James Comey through to the magistrate judge after they had voted down one of the charges against Comey and only secured 2 charges against him. There was that big hiccup, but it isn't what's being addressed here. This is solely about, did the Department of Justice formally take the pains it needed to get someone into the position of U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. And this judge, Judge Curry, she says they did not. And so everything that interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan has done, it's invalid at this.
Do you want me to play some more?
Like I said, Tish ain't off the hook yet. She's going to jail. All they have to do is bring in somebody who was confirmed to take that spot, and they can go at it again. That's not saying what the grand jury did was inappropriate or whatever. They're just saying that the U.S. attorney who did the presentment, or not the presentment, who proffered the proposed indictment wasn't properly in the office. But that can be easily rectified. So
So,
Tish is still about to get jacked.
so here's
So
my
it's
question.
on.
It basically got the judge had probably no choice but to throw it out over technicality.
Well, he did. She did. She did. So the technicality is easily remedied and it ain't over.
So then what? Okay, so what happens now? Because now they're calling for Pam
They
Bondi to
just get
apply.
another somebody to come in who has been confirmed by the Senate for the position and go
No,
jack
it
her
can bring
little
the charges
tootsies
back
up.
up.
Yeah, just jack her tootsies up. It's a delay.
So
The
did the judge?
wheels of justice grind slowly.
So what is it if the judge would have dismissed it without prejudice? Does that mean they can't come back and bring it up or something?
That means there's no prejudice. They can bring it back up.
With prejudice means you can't.
Yes, but that would have been appealed. Without prejudice simply means, hey, just start all over again. You can keep going. Nobody ruled on the merits of the case. Nobody ruled on the law and the technical proceedings.
So she dodged a brief bullet.
Yeah, in other words, hold on. One of the guys in the firing squad forgot to load up, so let him load up his rifle and we'll be back to business.
Or
Keep
it could have
standing on
jammed.
the wall.
Or the rifle could have jammed and was like, oh, let me clean it out.
Yeah, it's just like that. So it's got to sort of keep standing and holding that wall up. We aren't through with you.
Okay.
You ain't going nowhere.
So the indictments bring bank fraud, false statements to financial institutions, and the former FBI director, false statements and obstruction of congressional proceedings.
They ain't through with you yet.
Should Pam Bondi step down?
Why? She's the Attorney General for the United States of America, and she is essentially acting as a cabinet officer or a secretary for the executive agency that has the authority, and that is the President of the United States, AKA Donald Trump. And they just had a recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling that says it's appropriate for him to consult with, discuss with, and give direction to the Attorney General about prosecutions. So it ain't going nowhere. And that Democratic Party BS of saying it's inappropriate, it's not uh, good for the president to discuss with the Attorney General. The Attorney General works for the president. He is a cabinet officer for the president. And it's like being clerk of the court. Does the court work for you or do you work for the judges? Answer, you work for the judges. So when the judges tell you something, you need to do it. So when the president tells you something, because this is part of the executive function of government, that is.
Well, it says General Mike Flynn calls for President Trump to appoint Sidney Powell as Attorney General immediately, replacing Pam Bondi.
Why?
So I think maybe she had a little bit too many missteps with the saying that we're going to release the Epstein files and saying that we're not, we didn't do it, and then now with Leticia
That's
James.
up to Donald Trump, and he doesn't have to. Nobody made any missteps. That's just part of the initial process. Have you ever been to Tijuana?
No.
Anywhere in Mexico?
Yes, I've been to Mexico City.
You ever been to one of those markets and somebody says it's so many pesos or American dollars for the leather vest or the leather jacket? And then you say, oh, no, 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 too much, too much. And you give a counter offer. No, senor or senora, it's not bueno. It's much more valuable. and he gives a counter offer, and he goes down and you go up, and finally in the middle you meet. That's what's going on here. It's just a process of bargaining and barter.
Okay. Right.
Some folk forget that. They don't know about these realities of human relations.
Well, this is why you're here to take us behind the curtain of justice.
Yes.
With the new phone, honey, I'm amazed. Like the visuals are crisp, the sound and everything. Oh my God. It's the before and after. It's a difference.
Yeah, and I had to help Apple folk to come up with a solution to the hack.
Please don't invent. I don't want to hear the
I'm not
word.
going to go into it, but it was complicated. It took a year and a half to get rid of the scoundrel. And you think about what's the movie? Beekeeper.
Yeah. God. I know, preying on the elderly.
Yes. And
So I want to move to Mamdani. He went to visit Trump, honey.
yeah, well, I'm not surprised at what happened. Mamdani was running the game on the people of New York, the youngsters who didn't know how things worked. And he was promising a number of things to get elected that he can't do in the position as mayor. A lot of what he was talking about would have to either be done by the city council, board of aldermen, or the
Governor.
state legislative body, not even the governor. When you're talking about privatizing all of the grocery stores, and you're not privatizing when you're talking about
State run or city run grocery
taking the
store.
city taking over the grocery industry and the transportation industry, so there is no fee to support something that is dependent for its existence on the fares that are charged. Then you need a bit more than what a mayor can do, or a governor. You need the town council, so to speak, and you need the state legislative body to do this. And then there's a matter of eminent domain and taking of private property and the requirement for compensation. So all of this sounded good. But as I've said, you can't do it. So when Donald Trump had a conversation with him, perhaps they discovered that there was some commonality about what they wanted to do at the bottom level.
So I want to play a couple of clips from that meeting, and then have you comment, and then I want to play the clip from him being on Meet the Press, because she was really drilling him on these sanctuary cities and the illegals. So let's start with
Sanctuary cities,
yeah. So
Title 8, Section 1324, makes sanctuary cities illegal. And anyone that aids, abets, counsels, procures, gives assistance to, advocates, or gives a general helping hand to setting up a sanctuary city commits a felony. And it's been that way for many decades.
all right, so let me play this clip.
New York. Are you concerned about Jewish New Yorkers feeling welcome and safe in the city? And President Trump, you've threatened to cut off federal funding to New York City. What policies would prompt you to do that? Would that be city-run grocery stores? Would it be something else?
Well, I think if we didn't get along, whether it's cut off or just make it a little bit difficult or not give as much, we want to see, I use the term, we don't want good money going after bad. And we don't want that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I did say that, subject to what policies are being said. We had a meeting today that actually surprised me. He wants to see no crime. He wants to see housing being built. He wants to see rents coming down, all things that I agree with. Now, we may disagree how we get there, the rent coming down. I think one of the things I really gleaned very much today, he'd like to see him come down, ideally, by building a lot of additional housing.
Yeah.
that's the ultimate way. He agrees with that, and so do I. But if I read the newspapers and the stories, I don't hear that. But I heard him say it today, and I think that's a very positive step. No, I don't expect. I expect to be helping him, not hurting him. A big help, because I want New York City to be great. Look, I love New York City. It's where I come from. I spent a lot of years there. Now I'm right here. We took a big setback with the mayor that we had, named de Blasio. I thought it was a tremendous setback for the city. I think this mayor can do some things that are going to be really great.
Mr. President, New York.
And here's another one.
It's called the fine art of diplomacy and politics. That's how it works. Not where you just back into a corner and say, I shall not be moved. And you sit there and you deal with intransigence based on an inflexible position that's based on being too far over on one side compared to the rest of the public. This doesn't work that way.
Hear you.
Thank you, Mr. President. You're a billionaire. You have a different address nowadays than you used to, but you used to call New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you comfortable?
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. You know, he may have different views, but in many ways, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea, because he was strong on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on. Tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought. And when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. And, it just turned out to be a statistical truth. But no, I feel very comfortable. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting. Yes, please. Hear you.
And one more.
And I spoke about how we discussed.
What you say?
That music,
I have one more, and then go to the other one.
We discussed ICE and New York City, and I spoke about how the laws that we have in New York City allow for New York City government to speak to the federal administration for about 170 serious crimes. The concerns that many New Yorkers have are around the enforcement of immigration laws on New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, and most recently we're talking about a mother and her 2 children, how this has very little to do with what that is.
Mr. Mamdani,
What we did is we discussed crime. More than ICE per se, we discuss crime. And he doesn't want to see crime, and I don't want to see crime. And I have very little doubt that we're not going to get along on that issue. He wants to, and he said some things that were very interesting as to housing construction. And he wants to see houses go up. He wants to see a lot of houses created, a lot of apartments built, etc. And, we actually, people would be shocked. But I want to see the same thing.
And this is the last one. This was funny.
And I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes. Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
He don't care. I'm not the judge.
We need somebody like this. See, this is real. This is how the real world works. And we've been getting these posers who are doing these photo ops and these dramatized moments of non-reality. And that's not how the world works. So it's refreshing that we have somebody like this who is essentially saying our system is clogged up, our whole country is stopped up by this nonsense, so it's time to administer laxatives and enemas. And when you do that, what squirts out tends to smell very badly. So it's time for somebody to administer the X-Lax.
The enema.
Bring out the enema. Bring the bulb out.
So he's been so he went on Meet the Press on Sunday. And they've been doing some really good interviews, the journalists here, like really pushing back on these Democrats, right? And so I want to play a little bit of this. It's about 4 minutes because she was pressing him when it came to, sanctuary laws, national troops in New York. And let me just say this because I think that I think I was surprised that Mamdani went to Trump, but he's smart because you need federal funding. You can't just bypass that. And then two, he knows how Trump is to a certain degree to where if you didn't come kiss the ring or show respect, he probably would land national troops on the night he's supposed to be inaugurated in Times Square on New Year's Eve, but he doesn't want that. Like, you don't want to start off your term on a bad foot with the president of the United States. I don't care what party, that
Unless you're a Democrat that is in one of the other positions where they're Maxine Waters or Cory Bookmans or Coonhead Crockett. What Malcolm say? A processed head shows a processed mind. All of that kind of stuff there. Or Tish James, who's so happy she got a brief reprieve. And we've got Fannie down there in Atlanta with Sheriff Buttboy. So,
it's a mess. Well,
yeah, they get a brief reprieve.
So let me play this clip here.
Trump to send troops to New York City to address issues of crime and immigration. We've seen him do this in other major cities. Did you get any assurances in your meeting, Mayor-elect Mamdani, that President Trump will not send troops into New York?
I told the president that.
Are you researching dental implants?
There's a lot of dental offices that'll talk about doing their teeth and then.
The cornerstone of an affordability agenda is public safety, and that it is critically important to me. And for all that has been said and all that has been spoken about, and the tens of millions of dollars looking to make New Yorkers fearful of that question, the truth of it is, in fact, that I'm looking forward to working with the NYPD to deliver on that. And I shared with the president that my decision to retain Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch is in large part a recognition of the fact that in her time leading the NYPD, she has driven down crime across the 5 boroughs while starting to uproot corruption that was endemic in the top echelons of that department under Mayor Adams.
And I'm going to follow up with you on your decision.
That's not going to last long.
But to this core question that I think so many New Yorkers.
What?
That's more diplomacy. I don't think she's going to stay in that position long.
Are curious to know the answer to. What did President Trump say to you? Did he assure you he will not send troops into New York?
He told me that he cared deeply about public safety. I said I cared deeply about the same.
But did he say he wouldn't send troops?
What I told him is that what separates New York City from anywhere else in the country is we have the NYPD. And I trust the NYPD to deliver public safety. And to me, that is something that I know that they can do, that they have done, and they will continue to do under my leadership.
So he didn't rule it out in your meeting?
I made it very clear what we wanted to do was to deliver public safety and affordability, and the NYPD would be the ones to do so.
In that press conference with President Trump, a reporter asked you whether you believe that President Trump is in fact a fascist, a word that you've used in the past. You were about to answer, then President Trump sort of jumped in and he said, quote, "That's okay, you can just say yes. It's easier than explaining it." So, Mr. Mayor-elect, just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
so you do.
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today. And I think what I appreciated about the conversation that I had with the president was that we were not shy about the places of disagreement about the politics that has brought us to this moment. And we also wanted to focus on what it could look like to deliver on a shared analysis of an affordability crisis for New Yorkers.
You've also said in the past that President Trump has engaged in a, quote, attack on our democracy. You've called him a despot. Do you still believe President Trump is a threat to the democracy?
Everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe. And that's the thing that I think is important in our politics, is that we don't shy away from where we have disagreements, but we understand what it is that brings us to that table. Because I'm not coming into the Oval Office to make a point or make a stand. I'm coming in there to deliver for New Yorkers. And a few weeks ago, I was asked by a reporter 3 words to describe myself. I said, New York City. And that's what animated that conversation. How do we deliver for the people of New York City?
I think that some of your supporters would be curious to know. You say you stand by your past statements that, yes, he's a threat to the democracy. How do you square working with someone who you still think is a threat to the democracy?
I think working for the people of New York City demands that you work with everyone and anyone, and that you always look to find those areas of agreement while not overlooking the places of disagreement. And I think this was something that came up in our meeting. We spoke about immigration. We spoke about the fact that in New York City, we have sanctuary city policies that allow for the city to work with the federal government on around 170 serious crimes. The concern for so many New Yorkers comes about anything beyond that. And I spoke about the importance of us being able to protect New Yorkers, and some of the incidents that we see, they do not do that.
You raised the issue of sanctuary cities, so I want to speak to you more broadly about the issue of immigration. This is one that is so critical to New York, the rest of the country as well. One of your top supporters, Senator Bernie Sanders, recently weighed in on President Trump's record managing the border. He compared it to former President Biden. I want you to take a listen to what he had to say. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Trump did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have a secure border, and it ain't that hard to do. Biden didn't do it. Those before him did not do it. We should have a secure border, period.
Do you agree with Senator Bernie Sanders that President Trump has done a better job securing the border than former President Biden?
I haven't thought much about comparing presidents on the question of securing the border. I think it's important that it's secure, and I also think it's important that we have an immigration system that is humane. And that's what I spoke about with the president, is that New Yorkers want to see humanity in the policies that are being implemented.
Do you give President Trump some credit for the work that he's done to make the border, in Senator Sanders' estimation, more secure?
What I give President Trump credit for is the meeting that we had yesterday was one that was focused on how we could work together for New Yorkers. And the place that we could do so most effectively, frankly, is ensuring every New Yorker can afford the city they call home.
Well, you take me to my next question, which is about really the central issue of your campaign, affordability. You have...
Okay, you know what? See, on that open border thing, New York is the site of the Twin Towers, right? Or it used to be, because there are no more Twin Towers. Why aren't there more Twin Towers? Because some terrorists did a thing back in 2001, 911, and they are gone. So rather than having to hijack aircraft now, Biden let Al Qaeda, ISIS, and Hamas, Iran, North Korea, China, People's Republic of China, and some other folk walk across the border with these backpacks full of military-grade explosives. So we want to have another one of these moments where what else is going to come down in New York, because that's everybody's favorite target. It exemplifies the United States. It's the biggest city in the United States. It is the center of economic trade and finance and the stock exchanges. And what better target for somebody who does not like the United States to go after than something in New York City? So New York City is ground zero for what's going to happen next, along with some other places. So it's really a mess that you had this stupid moron who was in there and just let the border go wide open because it was a selfish effort to ensure Democratic Party hegemony in the next several elections by stuffing the populations of various critical states with excess population that would be counted under the Article 1 provisions of the U.S. Constitution without necessarily being able to vote. So it's real crazy.
And it sound like when you got in front of the man face Donald Trump in the Oval Office, right? Um, yeah, we agreed on a lot, and then you get in front of Meet the Press. It's like you speaking to the people that voted for you one way, and then you speak in reality to the president another way, and he's two-faced. And to me, that's not having a backbone. So I don't even wonder. I know for sure New York is never going to have a city-run grocery stores. What they may end up
Nor free public transportation.
exactly. It's impossible because it's expensive. They're not going to go down on the prices. They may put a freeze for a year, but if you freeze the rent, you're going to have to freeze mortgage interest for the people that own that building or the homes or whatever, because they're paying, high taxes, high mortgage rates or whatever. So I don't here's my thing. How do you convince the people, the American people, particularly New Yorkers, that if a politician say, I'm going to make sure that you have affordability, you could live, and you don't have to pay over 40% of your paycheck, it's a lie. But people
Well,
believe that.
yeah. Yeah. But, and you know what else is ludicrous about the whole proposition is who makes New York what it is, the biggest city in America, one of the most powerful cities in the world because of its being a center for economics, finance, banking, industry, and stuff like that. And you want to run around and say you're going to penalize these guys for doing what they do that made your city what it is? That's not going to work.
Well, I had to push back a little bit there, because that was the rumor mill. The billionaires going to leave. They haven't left yet.
No, they're not
Some of
going
them
to, but a lot of
relocated
them.
to Florida, but they relocated to Florida during COVID because they didn't want to be on lockdown. However, what the wealthy does and have done, they're the reason why, yeah, apartments and housing increase, because you have a lot of people who are making money, who are wealthy, and who are rich in New York City. But honestly, what makes New York, New York is the true melting pot. It's not so much the wealthy because they're boring. And a lot of wealthy people, rich people, or well-off people don't even weren't even born and raised in New York. They're from the outside coming in. It makes it boring. The people who were born and raised in New York make New York what New York is.
Yeah, but what would New York be about if it weren't for high finance and big
Oh,
business?
no, you're right. I mean, as far Wall
Yeah.
Street, and that was since before America technically was even America. So of course that's the cornerstone, especially marketing, so yes, that's a given, definitely. So what would it
And
be without that? Yeah.
one other thing too, they keep saying Trump is anti-democracy. The United States is not and never was intended to be a democracy. It is a republic that employs the democratic process for just one thing and one thing only, and that's the selection of the leadership. The leadership is not supposed to govern democratically. They're only supposed to be elected that way. Some of them, senators, representatives in the House, and that's it. The president is selected by the equivalent of a board of directors known as the Electoral College. The judges are appointed, so only one arm of government is elected by a democratic process, and the rest of the government, the other 2/3, are not. And they don't do the democratic thing. See, a democracy would require that every time there's a piece of legislation, everybody would get to vote on it. But California tried that in the Los Angeles area where they wanted to come up with every time the city of Los Angeles came up with a contract let's say for a new arrangement with the local utility company about supplying power to run the street lights and the stop lights. uh, how many Americans have the expertise and the wit and the patience to evaluate a 21-page detailed contract when it comes to your agreement between the city of Los Angeles and a utility company about supplying power to the city so they can operate the stoplights? They don't know how to do it. It's beyond them, and it's absolutely ridiculous to think that they would be required to or should be encouraged to think they should vote on every one of those contracts. Ain't gonna work.
So what is your conclusion with Mandani? Do you think that he's going to be more pro Trump in his agenda or more Castro?
Well, the point is that he ran a big game on the city about what he said he was going to do that he did not have the constitutional authority to do under New York law or American law. And it was to get in. He got in, so maybe he's got some ideas and some ambition for where he wants to go. I'm thinking of London, where a recent mayor of London was Islamic. Didn't do a bad job, but he got a little ludicrous. He wanted to register kitchen knives over a certain size because in England, they tend to be used for homicides.
Yeah.
Now, when you got to register what's in your kitchen drawers that's made in China, that gets a little ludicrous.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, all that, he selling socialism but actually implementing it, two different things.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, socialism itself was looked at as a solution to deal with the excesses of what they used to call laissez-faire capitalism, which meant capitalism with no restraints. And when you get to thinking socialism, you need to think about the National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany and the acronym for National Socialist Workers' Party in Deutsch, Sprachen Sie Deutsch, ja? Is Nazi. It spells Nazi. So we saw what those guys did, and we saw what their Italiano Contipate did with Mussolini, Benito. That's called fascism. And between Italia and Oberdeutschland, yeah, you got one poisonous combination of socialism. And we don't need to have another National Socialist Party in the United States of America, which would be the full-blown manifestation of that theme that the Democratic Party likes to get into.
Well,
and I was impressed by Bernie Sanders saying what he said.
Yeah, because I would say he's probably one of very few of the Congress people that actually sometimes do talk in reality. You know what I'm saying? And with common sense. Like, listen, and the reality is the borders needs to be secure and closed. And Trump did that. You have to give someone the acknowledgement, and their props for, doing their job and doing it right, so, or correcting a wrong. But and he would do that. Like, no, I don't like him, but he did a good job at the border. And it's the truth. But that was intentional for the Democrats to have an open border. So
And by the way, when you have an open border, don't forget the cartels.
yeah,
So
cartels, the
drugs,
drugs,
gun trafficking, all sorts of black market affairs. gangsterism taking over neighborhoods, terrorizing the local inhabitants. All of that goes along with, and 30 going on 40 some thousand convicted sex offenders that nobody knows where they are now. Up to 20,000 folk committed of various and sundry homicides. Nobody knows where they are anymore. And the street crime that is rampant and climbing like it is a moon rocket. It's very bad. So, Democrats, what are you trying to do? Say theft and death? That's supposed to be our lot so you can get your filthy way? No, that's not cool. Mm-mm.
So I want to go on something else with the Democrats. I want to get your thoughts on illegal orders. Those Congress people telling the military, don't take orders from Trump, don't listen to him.
Oh, let me tell you how ridiculous that is. And also, it shows, even though there are some veterans who have given good service to the country who spoke out in favor of rebellion, it's called mutiny.
Yes.
Under certain circumstances, it'll get you propping up a wall for a few minutes before you get an instant collapse when you get shot. But here's what the deal is. Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution says that it is the duty and obligation of the commander in chief and the armed forces of the United States to, quote, enforce the law of nations, unquote. Now, what does that mean? Well, you get to Article 6 of the Constitution, and it says ratified treaties are part of the supreme law of the land that must be enforced by state and federal judges and everybody else. And those ratified treaties say that smuggling drugs on the high seas is illegal. So that's against the law of nations. You don't need a declaration of war. You don't need an act of Congress. That is the obligation that the chief executive, AKA commander in chief, takes an oath of office to carry out. Also, in the same Article 1, Section 8, you have an obligation for the commander in chief and the naval forces of the United States to pursue, suppress, and eradicate piracy wherever found. And if you want to get the flavor for that, the Marine Corps hymn, what is it? From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. That shores of Tripoli was fighting piracy by the Barbary pirates. It's why the United States Navy is operational off of the east coast of Africa without a declaration of war, because they are pursuing, eradicating, and suppressing piracy wherever found. It's why Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden were taken on by the Navy SEAL Team 6 people, because that's piracy. They hijacked several aircraft on 911 to crash into the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and one, thanks to the brave action of the passengers, crashed in a field without harming anybody except those on board. So that's piracy because of Article 6 ratified treaties that declare hijacking of aircraft to be piracy. Now, so Trump had an obligation to go take on these drug smugglers off the coast of Venezuela that was dictated by Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. And there's one other additional thing, an ancient law known as the Monroe Doctrine to protect the hemisphere in which the United States is found from foreign intrusion and control, which is where the drug traffic comes from. That is also an obligation that the president has under existing law without any enablement by the Congress to go in and put a stop to it. So that's 1, 2, 3 basis for what he does. And he's operating within the law. And for some clown idiots to advocate mutiny by troops of the United States, meaning the Army and the Marine Corps, and the naval forces, meaning the U.S. Navy, and by implication, the new thing that was unanticipated at the time, the U.S. Air Force. That is disgracefully inappropriate.
I forgot what.
I didn't stutter, did I? Not
No, you
once.
did not. So the Department of War is considering recalling Democrat Senator Mark Kelly to active duty to be court-martialed for telling troops to refuse President Trump's orders. It says the Department of War has received serious allegations of misconduct against Captain Mark Kelly in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice and other applicable regulations. A thorough review of these allegations has been initiated to determine further action, which may include recall to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures. And here's the thing. What would make them say some stupid mess like that, knowing good and damn well
Ignorance. No, they
soldiers
didn't know good and well that nobody teaches people fine print anymore.
listen, the soldiers are not going to listen to anybody because you don't write their checks. You're not their boss. This the president.
And they joined up for some excitement, some martial service.
And watching that video, see, when we talk about communism, socialism, like all that radical woke, that's that woke left BS. And they really thought they were grandstanding, but it's like, no, you're not going to play on President Trump's name or his administration. Cause you know what I'm saying? Like it's like a parent when you keep being disrespectful, disobeying, and then completely breaking rules, right? A major rule, you gonna get your ass beat.
And
So
then he's supposed to be he's supposed to be the boogeyman. But remember, sometimes the boogeyman was the werewolf, and sometimes the boogeyman was the Dracula. The vampire.
but that's what I'm
And
saying.
when you mess with Dracula and the Wolf Man, you got problems because they're kind of rough to deal with. So you better go deal with the reality. And this is a reflection of ignorance, which, amongst other things, in my profession, it seems that for the last 50 years or the last
Hold on for a
40,
second, because let me address this. Someone in the chat said they have a right to say what they said. No, they do not.
yeah, but there is one difference. Not when you are a member of the military, not when you are in Congress and you're suborning mutiny and you're advocating mutiny. See, and the reason they're doing it is because they probably don't know any better, because even amongst judges and lawyers, less than 25% of American judges and lawyers have actually read the Constitution. So if the legal profession is in ignorance of what the Constitution says, just imagine the folk that don't practice law or preside over a courtroom, what their state of knowledge is or lack thereof when it comes to such things as the Constitution. It's a stupid move because it's advocating mutiny.
And you're doing it on behalf of illegal migrants. That's why it all came about.
And then the other thing is too, Article 1, Section 8 makes it quite legitimate, legal, appropriate, and mandatory to take on piratical behavior on the high seas, and also to enforce the law of nations. So guess what? When you're in the military and you start running your foolish mouth off about mutiny, oh, the articles of war are very hard. And, there's this place called Leavenworth, and You might think about somebody's going to do some time. There ain't gonna be no shit like that, so it's like they're taking penitentiary chances by being members of the military, and also it's unseeming to be part of the House of Representatives or the Congress of the United States to advocate for its troops to commit mutiny.
Just stupid. Just stupid. For some illegals.
Yeah, and then okay.
Sanctuary cities over y'all doing this over illegals.
And then, by the way, from 2001 all the way up for 20 plus years, the United States was involved in its longest continuous combat action because of 911. And you want to sit there and promote the development of another 911 on steroids because you want to promote the public policies of your party that are really way out of line and, by the way, are against the law.
Right. So, one more thing.
Title 8, Section 1324, it's seek.
One more thing, and I think you're going to appreciate this, right? Let's get a couple of examples here.
I want to recruit some more National Guard for Memphis, some more ICE, some more ATF, some more DEA, some more FBI, more U.S. Marshals, because it's gotten peaceful around here. And these idiots want to stop that and let theft and death rule.
Well, I was going to bring that up on Thursday when we pre-record, because I was going to just bring that up on Thursday to go a little bit more of that, because Pam Bondi wants to send a task force into Memphis. She was interviewed on that. So we discussed that on Thursday, because there's one more thing I want to bring up, a little bit of pop culture, but I think you'll enjoy this.
Pop culture.
Not once did I asked you guys to hit the like button in the beginning. I have not asked you throughout the show. That is my fault. Can you guys hit the like button and share this video?
And buy some barbecue sauce.
Yeah, buy the barbecue sauce.
We have a new product, a new packaging thing, by the way.
So it is a trend called the quarter zip trend, right? And yeah, the quarter zip movement. And it started with young Black men, young men. And it's like a sweater, and they call it quarter zip because it's the pullover sweater, and it's like a zip here. So it's very professional looking. So you have a lot of young guys changing from streetwear to professional, business attire and making it trendy. Because listen, if you look good, if you dress in a certain way, present yourself a certain way, certain mentality, networking, business, and stuff like that, something positive, especially when we're talking about young Black youth, boys and men, young men. So, and I like it and I support it, and they're doing a lot of videos like on TikTok and social media. You got the look, button up pants, everything, throwing that away, dressing professional, something that you will approve of, right?
Yeah, I mean, put the uniform on and let your deeds speak for you, rather than you're being garish and vulgarly outrageous with what you've got on.
Right. Love it.
And by the way, the biggest thugs have on the most expensive suits and ties.
That is true too, because those are
And
the
you
vicious
can
ones.
go anywhere, Pretoria, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya.
And get respected.
Yeah, you can get Moscow, Tokyo, Beijing, Wherever you go in the world, you get the biggest crooks. They have ties and shirts and suits, sport coats, slacks, and they're sharp and they have on the uniform.
So, with that said, right? So, this is a trend that started, I think, last week or whatever, and it's still going strong. And I wanted to stay, and because it has to be embedded. Get that mindset. Present yourself in a nice, mannerable, professional, clean looking way. But there's always, it seems like women are hating. So this video of this chick hating on these young men that are doing the quarter zip trend, saying that,
Oh, really?
yeah, okay, I'm
I
just
thought she'd be approving. Oh, come on. Let's see what
so
she's
listen to
got to
what she
say.
says, and then I definitely want you to comment on it.
Like, maybe I'm too woke, but I don't find the quarter zip shit funny because I also didn't find it funny a couple years ago when all those black men put on suits and then stood around in suits. I don't understand what men in general, but especially black men's obsession is with defining themselves by their clothing and not really actively doing any. It's not deeper than just like, well, we can put on suits. I can also put on a suit. What is the point that you're trying to make here? Like, it's like costume. Like, let's dress up as the social idea of success or productivity or decent, productive human being. I don't know. I don't even understand what y'all are trying to communicate to us. Y'all are constantly like essentially dressing up as white men. Like, that's kind of the underlying idea. Suits, quarter zips, like associating yourself with this like stereotypically white style. Hello? Do y'all not see how that's one, offensive to you as a black person, upholds white supremacy, but is also reductive of your like humanness? I don't know. It's like everything all the time with them. Nothing latches.
She's stupid.
That's one of the most ignorant things I have heard in a long time. And it's a classic example of not whether somebody's a fool, but how big a fool can a fool be. Now, it's a white thing. Well, what about all those Africans in Pretoria, Nairobi, Nigeria, Cairo? You talking about the Jews in Israel, and you talking about the Soviets, now the Russians, and Moscow, and Paris, and Rome, and London, and you're talking about Vietnam, and you're talking about South America, you're talking
What about
about Australia, New Zealand.
what about him?
They all have suits and ties on. So how in the hell are you gonna be dumb enough fool to say you're trying to act white, where everybody on the planet Earth, white, black, brown, red, yellow, wears a suit and tie when they've got something going on in their life besides being a fool, hopefully not trying to appeal to a dumb heifer like this who acts like she has lost her bloody mind, and you wonder what the hell somebody like her, a bit older, has done to their sons or whatever boys they may have had on the side. So, yeah, this is so stupid.
And she has on a blonde wig with fake eyelashes.
And what do you say? What did Malcolm say? Processed head. All that bleach up there shows a processed mind, which she just spoke and revealed. And she's got these barn flappers where she can, when her feet hurt, I guess she can flap her eyelashes and
Lie.
she'll lighten up a load because she's almost airborne. Fool.
Right. And so
And the roots are showing. You didn't even get your roots together. You're tacky it.
and because she's saying, "Oh, they're just going to be standing around." What?
No, they look like they want to work.
Right. And they're like,
Eh,
"Let's
eh,
let's network, let's do something, let's start a business, it's a lot of, look, the way you dress 9 times out of 10 is how you're going to present yourself and act in society.
Dress for success. You go to a function, and whether it's white, black, or brown, red, yellow, anywhere in the world, and everyone from the waiters waiting on the tables to the guys at the head table are all dressed the same. And why does everybody have the same thing on, the tuxedo? Because it's a uniform. It shows you belong to manhood. That white shirt, that collar is the last piece of male body armor. The leathernecks, aka United States Marines, they wore leather collars so they didn't get their carotid arteries nicked by somebody's light sword. You see that bozo the clown ruff that you see in Elizabethan times, that was to guard your neck. You see those folk that wrote the Constitution and the occasional black man that was well off with that
Yeah.
around their neck, that was to protect your neck from a sword stroke. So that tie, that collar, that's the last piece of male body armor worn. And it is symbolic. The whole thing about the suit's symbolic. It's functional, it works, and it's appropriate to anywhere. So you want to go look like you're a thug, and then, man, they was picking on me, man. Man, they didn't have no right, man. Well, you were driving around looking like a thug. Your vehicle you were in, the license plate was expired 3 months before. One tail light was out, and you had your music up loud enough to hear it 4 blocks away and share with anybody in somebody else's neighborhood who didn't want to hear it. And you were smoking some joints, you and your 3 homies, and you were riding low in a neighborhood you looked like you didn't belong in, because everybody out there had on suits and ties, or at least casual additions thereof when they were off work. So yeah, you look like a thug, you get treated like a thug. And by the way, 2 of the stone coldest killers I ever met in my life. One was a former Tuskegee Airman. He always was vying down with a custom made suit, shirt, and expensive tie. And the other one was a tenured professor who used to be a hitman for the mob 55 years ago.
Well, have you ever been to Martha Vineyard?
I have.
Ralph Lauren, he created a whole line paying tribute to Martha Vineyard, Oak Bluffs and HBCUs. And so when we talk about dressing, I just wanted to share this. When we talk about dressing, you know, how they dress back in the day, a certain time, a certain point in time in America, in Black America, and you're talking about the height of Jim Crow and segregation, men still dress, and women dress with pride, presenting themselves with pride, right? With all the obstacles that they were facing. So to see young Black men really go back to those roots of how you present yourself in a upstanding professional manner, right? I don't like to see women, particularly Black women, talk about she's too woke and they're stupid. They don't know what they're doing. They're playing into white
That
supremacy.
was a Negro woman, not a Black woman.
Negro woman, right? And I'm starting to see that trend with them more and more. And it's this woke mess, and they don't understand what woke really is. And if you understand history, American history, Black history, or if you talk to any of your elders of of, Black people. What was it like back then? How did you survive all that, without affirmative action before the civil rights movement? How did you live? How did you present yourself, raise your kids or whatever? So again, it seemed like we lost something. And I always say this: men have to lead the community and the family. You have,
Yeah, and you look like you're ready to go,
yeah,
whether you're going to war or whether you're going to make money.
right. And
You
so
look like you're ready.
right. And I was concerned to thinking, looking at Gen Z, even millennials, are they ready to lead? Right. So to see a trend, because everybody's on social media, especially with the younger generation, to see a positive trend that's going to reflect how you live your life, how you present yourself in society, wanting better, being a businessman, being a leader is very important. But I don't see that respect coming from Black women.
Yeah, it's see, black women, not black women, female Negroes are much a part of the plantation system. They helped make King Cotton all powerful. They were bed wenches who were trying to gravitate up to being plantation mammies and managing the Negroes who were the domestic animals on the plantation, and they still do it. And the fact that they are not talking about showing pride in men dressing appropriately to their masculinity is why so many of them promote looking like hippo Lizzo rather than a decent woman. See, I grew up where when you worked in a factory, when you were a delivery guy, you had on a tie. And you didn't mess with these men because they'd been in Korea, World War II, and World War One, or they came from that same culture and they would take you out. So it's like the schools were peaceful because you had all of these white, black, brown, red, yellow men who were school teachers, didn't take, what did you say, boy? Come in. I dare you. Come in. Dare you. Say it again. They don't have that now. They got a bunch of sissies running around that they get pampered and they run around looking like little wild thugs and they ain't about nothing. They don't look like they're going to make any money. They don't look like they're in charge. They certainly don't know how to take orders. And like the military has long said, you aren't fit to give orders unless you know how to take them. And they aren't fit for much of anything except being put in penitentiaries and making other folk a lot of money while they're in there.
Right. It could have been even a wino on a street back in the day will have a tie on or something. So, listen, I'm glad to see young Black boys, young Black men, and young Black men taking that initiative to push out that positive content. And
Yeah,
they
and take a look at some of the old footage from Harlem or
oh,
Chicago or for Los Angeles and see what the young black men were on, grown
they were
black
looking like
men were
they
wearing.
wore that. Yeah, they wore quarter zip sweaters or whatever. I don't know. I don't think they called them that back then. But again, exactly. So definitely they need to keep it up and then expand it to okay, with dressing. Now let's start creating a business or going to school to be lawyers or whatever. So it has to start somewhere.
And Obama boy started it on the pathway down the wrong way. Here's the president of the United States of America, and he doesn't have a tie on.
Okay, so that was one time, and I kind of thought
Not one time, a lot of times. And what else he did? Bobby, what do you have to say about this? Mary, tell us about Mary. We're so glad you're here. And Mary is 87 years old, and she's been wanting somebody to call her Ms. or Mrs. for her whole life because they've been calling her Mary. And here's the president of the United States could have made this old woman's just float, and he calls her Mary. I saw this actually. Some woman that I was remotely acquainted with, she came out of the rural South, and she says, "I'm just so glad, young man, that you called me Mrs. Ain't nobody ever called me that in my whole life." And here's Obama showed up, and she was at the function, and she said, "Oh my God, I was just so excited the president of the United States was going to recognize me." Well, what happened, ma'am? Why are you crying? He called me Mary instead of Mrs. Thomas. You know, and a bunch of us.
People think they have the authority to be very familiar with people.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, too, when you get that way, you don't have to show respect for the accomplishments of others. Everybody's supposed to be the same. When you've been to jail several times, you ain't done stuff, you dropped out of school, and you're supposed to be on the same level with somebody who really busted it. I get this thing right now, and sometimes I get mad. I think about all of the black men that did not get advantage of any affirmative action program, but they got their acts together and they got ahead, got through the colleges, universities, got to be in positions of power. And I'm looking at all these folk who had it handed to them because they had the paint job, and they haven't done a damn thing with it except mess it up, like most of the elected officials that are running these blue cities. So it's kind of a disgrace, you know. You have your manhood, show it. You have your masculinity, demonstrate it. But they want to sit there and they want to be garish like they're girls and see how loud and colorful they can get. It's kind of crazy.
All right, and that's it. Good show. Love the camera. Love the new phone. Yeah.
I've been up, I haven't been to sleep 48 hours working on getting this thing together. I really had to go do some
Do you have your
things.
iPad on your lap or something?
No, the iPad is, I have to set the iPad up, and I even got an Apple Watch, so I got to set that up, but you need your iPhone before you can set that up.
Maybe next time try to do the show on your iPad like you used to.
I will hopefully have it set up by then.
But that's next week. But we pre-record Thursday. All right, Judge. Thank you. Appreciate you.
I got to go. This has been Joe.
See
2 thumbs up.
you in the next show.
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. I got. Oh wait, real quick. I'm sorry. Real quick. What I'm doing. Let me acknowledge some of the super chats. Sorry about that. Thank you to Alonzo. He said, okay, they enact tougher laws on paper. Then what? They have enough laws criminalize all these things, laws without the teeth of enforcement. Yeah. And I read that earlier. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for the super chat. Thank you. And the jackals of Tierra Argentum draining and also isn't pretty, but it saves lives. And thank you again, Alonzo. Stay ready. You won't have to get ready. Exactly. So thank you guys for donating and everybody listening. Please like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the bell button to get all notifications. Good night. And where's that thing at?
All right.
I do an outro.